With the Winter Olympics officially over and the Predators gearing up to come back to the ice, it's once again time for Mailbag Monday.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. I want to start off by shouting out all of our Locked On Predators podcast community and our everydayers who tune in to chat all things Preds every day. My name is Jack Williams, and I am the Nashville Predators beat writer for the Hockey News and the host of the Locked On Predators podcast. Today is Mailbag Monday, as I've been mentioning over the past week or so, that this is something we're going to try to get going, a regular thing that we want to get going on the Locked On Predators podcast and get your guys' insight. Talk about what you guys want to talk about, get your opinions in, and I'll answer the questions to the best of my abilities. And hey, if I get more questions, maybe we can get guests on to answer these questions too. If you guys want to participate in this as well, that link for that Google form will always be in the show description. It will always be on social media, wherever you guys can find it. And you just fill out the Google form. It's 2 questions. The first one is the question you have, and then the optional one is if you guys want a shout out or not. But it's easy enough. It's in the episode description. If you can't find it there, I'll have it up on Twitter and wherever else. But would love to hear your guys' question. We have too many this week, so we're going to do 2 mailbag segments, and then we're going to talk about the Olympics a little bit, kind of our closing thoughts for everything. But would love to do just a full episode of mailbag. So let's make that the goal for y'all, and goal for the show. Would love to see more questions from y'all. So feel free to participate. Do not be afraid. And hey, if you want to stay anonymous, that's a complete option here. But we'll start off with the first question here that comes from JJ. And he said, do you think that hiring Barry Trotz as GM with no front office experience, I'm assuming, was a mistake? Only qualification seems to be he coached the team. That's a big question to start off the bat with. And I thought about this like a little bit more than usually when I read these questions. Usually I read these questions right off the bat, so I have a genuine reaction for y'all. I saw this and, gave it maybe a minute and a half of thought before I'm seeing it for the first time or what so not. But with that, kind of, I think it's a mistake, just because I think this franchise has a really bad nostalgia problem, or nostalgic problem, in my opinion. And that makes sense too with some of these teams that have had success in the past. They will continue going back to what they've known forever and what works. And I think this team is in that right now, and just they have been with Trotz for their entire existence, most of their existence. There's that break there where he's with the Capitals and the Islanders. But I think with just, as we talked about, the front office management that's been there forever, talking about the identity of this team that's been the same thing, where you're bringing in big guys and just being a hard-hitting team that doesn't really skate very fast, but finds their success off of being aggressive and being physical. And Trotz is the guy that kind of orchestrated that and architecturized. That's not a word. He was the architect of all of that. And I think in having him come back around and being GM, I don't know how much of it was a mistake. That's why I say maybe, but it is kind of a nostalgia problem where you're like, oh, well, this worked for us back in the 2010s, and this worked for us back in the heydays. Let's bring it back in. Let's bring Trotz back in a different position, and let's try him out at this other position now that has more power, and he's going to get to build his own teams, and it's going to be like the rah heydays of 2010 to 2015 or whenever he was here, and it's going to be all good again. And kind of backtracking whether to the point of where this franchise should have been moving in a different direction and trying something new out and really just embracing a different identity and something they had never done before. That's where I think that should have moved when you were looking for a different general manager, instead of kind of going back to what you know. It's important in this league to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And we've heard Andrew Brunette say that a ton this year, with them falling into early holes and then finding ways to come back and win. But that can be taken into different contexts of the sport as well, from not just from wins and losses, but just moving your franchise forward and trying different stuff and keeping up with the pace of the league nowadays. This Nashville Predators team, there is a lot of, success to them. They do have good pieces there, but it's not really a team that's built for the style of NHL hockey that's being played today. And just they need faster guys. They need a defense that's going to be more offensively apt. And I think Roman Josi embodies that a lot more, but a lot of the other guys don't really. You have too many stay-at-home traditional defensemen that are really big but can't really get their legs moving. But I'm getting a little further away from the question here. But I think with the issue with that and just him coming in with no front office experience, it makes sense just because he's been in the league for so long and wanting him to try him out in something new. But at the same time, the Predators kind of just went back to what they know and what they've been comfortable with. And they need to start making decisions that they're a little bit more uncomfortable with and try things out that they are uncomfortable with. Make picks that this franchise is not used to, maybe embrace a different identity and all that, and have this new GM come in and not be so linked to the history and tradition of this franchise and maybe try something different out and maybe move into a different identity. That's so important, in my opinion, of that as well. So whatever the mistake was in bringing him on, it will end soon. It will end at least at the earliest by the end of the season, or the latest by the end of the season. And once they find a new GM, they're moving on from Trotz. It's going to be someone else. Trotz will be there in an advising role, but at the end of the day, whoever steps in at GM is going to be the one calling the shots. So mistake or not, that this trial process, whatever you want to call it, the reign of Trotz or what's or not, it will end at the end of the season. So patience, y'all. We just have to stay patient here. Just a few more months. Whether or not the Preds make the playoffs or not, that will be extending that a little bit more. But we will see what happens with this. But answering the question there, it's kind of a mistake. It's just how you interpret it, really. The second question here is from Sam, and he says, what do you see happening with Brady Skjei's contract? Does he finish out the full 7 years here? Can we convince some team to trade for him? A Kyle Turris-esque buyout? Would love to hear your thoughts. And again, this is from Sam. Thank you for the question, Sam. So that Brady Skjei contract is awful. It's so bad, y'all, and I think everybody knows that. And it just being a 7-year term, I don't know. And this was a really bad signing from Trotz, and I understand where your eyes get really big and seeing a player like this coming in. And this was the free agency period back in 2024 where the Predators were just, hungry going into the market and grabbing all these guys, and nothing came to fruition really until this year. You're seeing Steven Stamkos really live up to that. Jonathan Marchessault has not been great, and Brady Skjei just hasn't been getting going at all. Andrew Brunette talked a little bit about it after one of the games and how Brady Skjei plays more of a leadership role in the locker room and facilitates a lot of what they do on the ice, but he's not the top defenseman that they brought on and the big signing that it was supposed to be. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody's going to eat this contract unless you get it, because it's such a long contract right now. It's going to take I think you have to shave 3 more years. He has to be here for at least 2 or 3 more years before you can finally advertise that contract and working him in, because man, it's not a good contract at all, and he's just not playing up to it at all. I'm going to pull it up so we can look at it together, because again, it's 7 years, but 7 years, $49 million, and he's in the second year of it. And again, it's going to take 2 or 3 more years for that to shave off before the Predators could go out and say, hey, this is a defenseman that we want to get something for, anything for. And by that time too, I mean, he's not a young guy. He's 31 right now. You add 2 or 3 more years to it, he's going to be 33, 34, maybe 35 by the time the Predators are going to want to put him out there. So you really just, you just can't get enough. You wouldn't be able to get too much with him. It just depends on how he's playing. And then right now at 31, he doesn't look amazing right now. It'd be an expensive buyout right now, but like I said, you have to shave some more time off that, because nobody in the league is pardon my French, I'm not going to swear here, but just be a little blunt. Nobody in the league is dumb enough to take on I'm doing some quick math, 4 to 5 more years of a 7-year contract of a guy that's barely producing, of a $7 million yearly hit. Like, I don't know. I guess answering your question too, the Predators could take a buyout and retain part of it, but it's just, again, it just doesn't happen now. It's not going to happen now, and I know a lot of the fans, and I agree too, a lot of the fans and probably management are trying to find ways to get him out. But does he have a no trade as well? I still have the contract up. We'll look at this. Does he have a no trade clause? Playing with the Nashville Predators, contract expires. No, he doesn't. Oh, wait. Yes, he does have a no movement clause, and that stays on for the entire contract. So if he wants to if the Predators want him to go, he can't go unless he wants to leave. It's cannot be traded, sent to the minors, or waived without player approval, and he has a 15-team no trade list. And then from there, yeah, it's a 15-team no trade list. None of that comes off. That sticks for the entire contract, so it just makes his contract even worse. But like I said, you're gonna have to do a lot of heavy work in order to get Brady Skjei off the books. So that's how I think. But we're gonna take a quick ad break here. When we come back, we're gonna do some more questions. Let me look at the ad that's coming up here so I can queue it up for y'all. But yeah, more questions are coming up right after the break. Cold days, packed schedules, and big goals. That's winter. And when there's not a lot of time to cook, eating well can feel like another thing to do on the to-do list. That's where Factor comes in. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. The ingredients stand out: lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. Tons of variety with 100 rotating meals each week, so it never gets boring. Options like high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and even new Muscle Pro collection for strength and recovery. Perfect for busy weeks when you just want meals to support your goals without the stress. Head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 off and use code lockedonnhl50 off to get 50% off and a free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. So we're sifting through the mailbag, and again, not a lot of questions this week, so we're elongating this here. But on to the next question. Is this the one? Yes, it is. This is from @Jacob, the Ultimate Lightning Fan 88. So we're going to get a perspective from a different fandom here. This is coming from a Lightning fan. Who would have expected? How do you feel about the Preds? How do you feel the Preds should approach the deadline, considering they still have a pretty decent shot at the playoffs? I like the Preds as my second favorite team, fun to watch. Well, I mean, got a good regional team down, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, so there isn't too much crossover. But you're probably having a lot more fun watching the Lightning than the Predators, Jacob. But we've talked about this at length. God, I sound like Andrew Brunette and everyone else when we're talking about giving up early leads in the first goal of the game. We talked about it at length. About what they're going to do with the deadline, and I'll sum it up in a bulk way, and we'll talk about a little bit of the deadline, the Olympic thoughts, because there's a player that burst out a little bit more that I don't think a lot of people were expecting and could have an impact at the deadline. But they're going to remain conservative, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to do much. Emma Lingen had a lot of really great thoughts on the trade deadline. If you guys want to watch that episode, highly recommended. Great conversation with Emma. She's really on top of her stuff, and she really knows her stuff, which is why she co-hosted with Anne for so long. Those two are dynamite, by the way. Fantastic. But I mean, she mentioned too, one of the big things she brought up was Michael McCarron and how those rumors are starting up again. She's like, these rumors happen every year with Michael McCarron, and they need to keep him because he's consistent. Big guys that you're hearing about, like Ryan O'Reilly or Steven Stamkos. One, he isn't, again, I cannot say this enough about Steven Stamkos. He has a no movement clause. He's not moving. I don't think he wants to leave. So unless he's I mean, at the beginning of the year, if that irritation continued into now, I would be saying this a little bit differently, but he doesn't really seem like he wants to leave at all. He's not hinting that either. Ryan O'Reilly really doesn't want to leave either. So, I mean, you're not going to see big names coming out of here. I think the most you're going to see is you're going to see them trying to acquire draft picks. And Michael Bunting is the one that I think most people agree is going to be on the move and is going to be kind of headed out. If he stays, it isn't too surprising because he does have a major impact, but on this market, you can really get a lot for him and you can probably get a good package for him too. And then if they want to move out some of the bad, in my opinion, and I think this will go into the next question, but I think you want to do some movement with some of your defensemen because the defense is really, really bad. So that's kind of how I feel on that of just uh, moving things around a little bit more and just I think they're going to be a little bit more conservative with what they do. And I think the whole conversation is, oh, well, they're going to do this, this, and this. And then you hear from, I mention this account all the time because it stresses me out. The NHL trade rumors, which it's fantastic, but some of the things that these people say are just noise and they're just speaking whatever is the first thing that comes to their mind. I think Elliot Friedman said something on an Oilers podcast of I can't even remember. It made no sense. I've tweeted too much. I can't go back and find it, but it was just some of these things that people say, especially when it's revolving around the Canadian teams, some of the things these people say, like it doesn't make any sense. Or the whole thing earlier, one of these podcasters or analysts said, like, "Oh, I've been hearing things about Juuse Saros, and I've been hearing things about Philip Forsberg," and I'm like, "You've got to be joking with this." So again, from somebody who is in Nashville, who is around the team a lot, who is at 90% of the home games and talks to the team after me, I think they're going to be pretty conservative. And then the other part of it too is I mentioned this a lot from Barry Trotz, but it was a good quote from him and saying a lot of these teams don't know where they are in the standings and pertaining to the playoffs. So a lot of these teams and the standings again are so close right now that if you make a move, you don't know if it's going to tank your chances or it's going to elevate you. So there's a lot of risk. It's really like gambling right now. So a lot of these teams, we might just see a conservative deadline as a whole because these standings are so tight right now. But that's a long way of answering the deadline question. I said I was going to wrap it up really quickly, but as we all know here at Locked On Predators and in this fan base, the deadline has been a very elongated and popular topic. On to the final question for today. And this is from Sean O'Toole. On Twitter, he is Pat_in_the_hat on X. Jack, I am making you the interim GM for a week. Of the following 6 players, who are you trading? Who are you keeping? Cole Smith. This is going to be fun. Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, Erik Haula, Michael Bunting, Nick Blankenburg, Tyson Jost. So, oh my God, I have to control myself. I'm keeping Erik Haula, Michael Bunting, and Nick Blankenburg because they actually offer something. Hold on. Erik Haula, I extend, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Michael McCarron, I'd keep. Nick Blankenburg, I'd keep because the defense really, really has no depth at all beyond those two, Josi and Blankenburg. Everybody else on the defense is so bad. I trade the whole defense except for those two if I was GM because nobody's offering anything there. And you could say guys that play decent, but you have 2 guys that are playing really well. You have a lot in the mushy middle, and then you have like some guys that really shouldn't be on the roster, Justin Barron. But I think you need to keep somebody on defense there, and that's Nick Blankenburg in this mix. Nick Blankenburg, Erik Haula, I think is just playing really well. And then Michael McCarron. I was really, really like anti-Michael McCarron in the offseason because I remember coming onto this beat and looking at all the stats and be like, why in the world are the Predators keeping this guy? He's a big guy who just is in and out of the box. And my whole thing was like, why is he still here? And then I've slowly realized he has a role that he's playing here. And Emma opened my eyes and said he adds consistency to that. This team needs consistency, and he brings that to the table. So, it's important that he stays in this team because they need consistency. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So those three I'd stay. Cole Smith is like Michael McCarron, but offers substantially less, in my opinion. And I think if you get rid of him, you can get some good trade picks in. So I'd trade him. I understand he's popular and he's a fan favorite, but it's just he's not. He's a great PKer, but you can get those a dime a dozen around the league. And yes, he offers that, but I mean, it's just not enough to stay. And you need more depth from your forwards past the second line. This team needs a deeper scoring edge, and you're starting to see it a little bit more. But I think you need like one more winger on the fourth or third line to give a bit extra oomph in everything. And Cole Smith is filling that spot. Tyson Jost. I'd get rid of Tyson Jost yesterday because he's one of the reasons why the Milwaukee pipeline is plugged up. And I think a lot of that goes towards Trotz and liking to have a 13th guy every night. And it's just, this was a guy that was really good like 5 years ago. I remember him being like a pretty notable name when he was with the Avalanche. I think he was with the Avalanche. He used to be like in the know of kind of everything. He was kind of one of those names that popped up and you recognized him a few years ago. And now he's just like, he's a waiver. He's a guy that was picked up off of waivers, paid tryout. It was the same situation when I was in Vegas with Tanner Pearson, who is no longer with Vegas, but last season when I was there, he was picked up. It's an offer of veteran presence, but I just think he's taking a spot from a guy in Milwaukee. If you're going to have that role, sift guys up from Milwaukee, bring guys up from Milwaukee. Like, I don't think he really offers anything. And I think if you get rid of him, or if you package him with Cole Smith, you could get a solid fourth liner, or you can get draft picks. So, I mean, I don't think he offers much. So, did I answer all of that? No, Michael Bunting. I think that that's the best piece you have on the market right now. Realistically, Michael Bunting's the best piece you can put on the market right now, realistically. And it realistically is important. It's very important. So I talked about a ton in the last question, why he's important, how much he offers, and he's a good hockey player. He's a good bottom six player, and he can give you good minutes on any team. That's so important. So to go through it, and again, thank you, Sean, for the fantastic question. I would keep Erik Haula, Nick Blankenburg, or Michael McCarron, and I'd get rid of Cole Smith, trade Cole Smith, Michael Bunting, and Tyson Jost. And I feel confident with that. I don't think I'm saying anything bald or crazy. But that's going to do it for the question segment. Before we get into the final ad break, I want to talk to you guys, of course, about the Everyday Club. Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 podcast, sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everyday Club and get Locked On Predators with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonpredators.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. When we come back, we'll be debriefing the Olympics for probably the last time. They ended today, being Sunday, February 22nd for y'all. They ended yesterday. Lot to talk about, whether it's Preds related or not. It will be a fun last segment here. And hey, like I said, the goal is to make this a all questions show. So I need y'all's questions so much. So please send them, even if we just did this episode, you're like, oh, well, I'll be waiting a while. I clear this file out, and the new questions that come in will be the set questions for the next episode. So please submit your questions in the Google form link. But when we come back, we will be wrapping up Olympic talk. So that is coming up right after the break. If you've ever hired someone who looks good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire somebody for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored job boost your posts to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored job posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing the candidates who check all of your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves on Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right. The flame has been extinguished, and the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympics are through. And before we get into the grand finale of it all, because that's the way we will end this episode, let's talk about two Predators that really stood out in the semifinal and the bronze medal game. The big one, as I mentioned, I kind of hinted at twice here, was Erik Haula. 3 goals and 3 assists in the tournament. He had 3 goals in 2 games. He had 2 goals in that bronze medal game. Had a clutch goal in the semifinal game against Canada, and we'll talk about the Canada game a little bit later. But in my opinion, he outplayed a lot of what people expected him to do as a bottom 6 forward. He had a really good tournament, really caught some eyes. It's just a center that is gritty and can find ways to score. This was massive for his stock. I think this was a fantastic tournament. Out of all the Predators, I think this was the biggest stock boosting tournament for him. I don't think it was the best tournament. And we'll talk about the guy who I think had the best tournament, but I think this was huge in just upping his stock. If the Predators want to put him on the market, I think you get a lot more eyes on him now after his Olympic performance. If you want to keep him, I think you get a good contract. He gets a good contract extension out of this because he's in the final year of a 3-year contract, $9.45 million overall. And he was signed by the New Jersey Devils in 2023 on this contract. But again, he outplayed expectations. He had just a really solid tournament, was kind of a guy I think a lot of people on competitors against Finland really didn't expect to go off like the way he did. Again, it was 3 goals and 3 assists in the longevity, the length that they played in the tournament. But for Haula, that's a big bounce back for a veteran in the league for his first Olympics. I think this was a fantastic game for him, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with him on the trade deadline market. And then if he gets past the deadline stays here, I wonder what they're going to do with him in free agency, because he might be one of the hotter free agents if the Predators choose not to sign him. The other guy who I think had the best tournament out of all the Predators players was Juuse Saros. When you talk about his Canada game, he almost stole that game. I talked on the phone with my dad, and we'll talk about how massive goaltending is in this tournament even more. But he was the reason why Finland had a chance in this game. It was a 1-goal game, ended in a 3-2 result, but Canada outplayed Finland immensely. They had so many shots on net, and it was the only reason, Saros, in my opinion, was the only reason why Finland had a chance in this game and the opportunity to pull a massive upset. He made 36 saves on 39 shots, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, that's higher, but what did Finland put on? Finland only put 17 shots on net, so he was being pelted. And this is a game that Finland had a 2-0 lead in too, so Canada had to come all the way back as well. I mean, it's a lot of what we've seen throughout the regular season, especially the earlier part of the regular season with the Preds, where he's just getting rained on, and he is finding all different ways to keep his team into the games, and is just being dynamic and just standing on his head. And he did that here of just, like I said, he was Finland's MVP. He was massive. And Nathan MacKinnon gave him the credit too. And man, he was so petty in this tournament. And I understand you're disappointed and not happy when you're losing or you're getting questions about the opponent, but he was asked about Finland's performance, about them being a good team. He's like, oh, well, they had a good goaltender. And I was like, oh, well, did you think Finland was a good team or a solid team to compete against? He's just said they had a good goaltender. He talked a little bit more about the U.S. game, and we'll talk about that in the final part of this segment. But he agreed that that's the reason why they stayed into it, and more eyes are on Saros if they already weren't. But massive performance by Saros in these Olympics here. Glad him and Haula get to come back to Nashville with some bronze and a medal to show for it. According to, I think it was the Predators, I think that's what it was. The Predators had advertised that they will be back in town on Wednesday, and then they will be back in the lineup on Thursday for the Predators' first game back hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. But fun Olympics for those two guys. Roman Josi, I think he just had a solid Olympics, played very straightforward, just continuing his play, dominant at the age he has been, and nothing different from what we've seen in the NHL. Nothing like jumping off the page. We already know he's like dynamic and elite and just continue to do that at the Olympic level. And then for Philip Forsberg, he made the most of what he was given in a not great situation where he was limited for his ice time for some reason. But Predators had a decent outing at the Olympics. It's nice to see two come home with medals. Unfortunately, they weren't gold or silver, but hey, bronze is always wonderful too. It's always nice to end your tournament with a win. But the final thing I want to talk about, and it's not Preds related, but it's related with all of us and everybody that is from the United States, is that the United States won its first gold medal since 1980. Man, isn't that awesome, y'all? That's fantastic. And Jack Hughes scoring a goal, and I've watched so many reaction videos today. Scoring a goal, most people didn't see go in because the angle that it was shot at, not that he shot it at, but the camera was at, didn't see it going in. You don't really see Hughes coming in on the right side as much. He kind of comes in off screen and lets a shot go. It was on a broken play where I think Werenski kind of pushed the puck over to some open space, and Hughes was there 3-on-3 overtime. United States wins 2-1. Again, their first gold medal since 1980, since the Miracle on Ice. Man, I cried. I'll be straight up for you. I mean, it's such a cool moment to see something I don't think I thought I'd see in my lifetime, just because if it wasn't Canada for a lot of years before that, it was Russia or Sweden or somebody. And the United States had always been the bridesmaid, never the bride for a long time. I mean, I remember back in 2014 when the United States had that unbelievable shootout game against Russia with I can't think of his name right now. It's TJ Oshie. And then they get into semifinals against Canada and they just can't get it to go. And then, you have the NHL players leave the Olympics and the United States just couldn't get it together, unfortunately. But at the same time, you have European professionals coming in and that's where they dominated. And then them coming into this year, everyone kind of had a feeling that this was going to be different. This was going to be similar to 2010 where they had a shot at the gold medal. It was going to be them in Canada. And Connor Hellebuyck was the biggest reason why the United States won this, similar to Juuse Saros, and now Finland had a chance against Canada. Just the amount of saves he made, the saves he made to keep the United States in this and give them a chance and keep it a 1-1 game and push it into overtime. Massive. The U.S. had a 1-0 lead, and it shuts a lot of mouths with Connor Hellebuyck and people saying he can't win the big game. So, I mean, it's awesome to see this happen. It's great. Like I said, I cried. I was very excited as somebody who grew up playing hockey in the Midwest and getting excited about the Olympics and having my dad's own stories about experiencing the 1980 Miracle on Ice. I'm guessing y'all too have your own stories too with the Miracle on Ice and that, and watching Miracle too and just getting engrossed in U.S. hockey, watching the World Juniors every year, watching World Championships, credit to the women's team too, and pulling off another overtime winner over Canada and beating them and doing it for 2-for-2, and they've been dominant as well. It's been U.S. and Canada and women's for a really long time, and they've put on some really thrilling games too. But they haven't had as long of a drought as the men have. So I mean, it's exciting for sure, and it's exciting to watch. I'll leave you with, when I was younger, I had a little vintage shirt that it was like, how vintage shirts are. It was like a vintage graphic tee that had like the 1980 like Miracle on Ice. It was written out. It said like USA versus USSR on it. It said like Miracle on Ice. And I loved it. I wore it all the time. This was when I was like in middle school. I remember it being such a vintage piece and wearing this and be like, this is the last time they won the gold medal. And now that shirt's not that gold medal feeling is no longer vintage. It's happening now, and it's exciting to take it in. So I hope y'all had a great celebration, woke up early enough to watch the game, and had a great Olympics. It was a great return for hockey to the Olympics for sure. We had some fantastic games, especially in the knockout rounds. Hope this continues. Hope Gary Bettman makes the right choice to continue sending NHL players to the Olympics, and this new embrace of international hockey in the NHL. It's exciting to see. It's fun to see. It's so great to have it back, and it's even better that the United States is on top. But that's all I got for y'all. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. You can find me at Jack G. Williams on Twitter/X. All my written work is the Hockey News Nashville Predators, Jack Williams. And then if you guys are just interested on Locked On, I hit my microphone. You can find us on Twitter at LO_Predators and Facebook and Instagram. We are Locked On Predators. And remember, Everyday Club, if you guys are interested, $5 a month, $50 a year, ad-free audio, members-only Discord access. Built for most loyal fans. If you guys want to take your listening experience up a level, join the Everyday Club. But that's all I got. Thank you for joining me for another episode. And I look I don't know what I look like with this hat on. I took a nap before this, and I was looking in the mirror, and I was like, it's 11 as I'm recording this. And I'm like, maybe I can fix this. And I couldn't. So I just threw the toque on, as they call it up in Canada. But thank you guys. Really appreciate you guys. Really thankful for you guys. Please send your fan questions so we could do a longer episode of these, and I can give you guys shout outs, and we can answer all your dying questions. But that's all I got. Again, grateful for you guys. Love these conversations, and I will see you tomorrow for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast.